Have you ever found yourself listening to someone tell a story while an invisible alarm bell keeps ringing in your head quietly but insistently telling you that something is off? You can't quite put your finger on it? You don't have hard evidence. You can't suddenly pull out a lie detector in the middle of class or a casual conversation. And it's not like everyone has the time or desire to study psychology just to read the minds of people around them. Yet that uneasy feeling refuses to go away. You sense a crack somewhere in the story, even if you can't immediately see it. The good news is that you don't need complicated techniques, expensive equipment, or years of training to spot deception. In fact, you don't even need to confront the other person aggressively or turn the situation into an interrogation. With a few simple observations and a bit of awareness, you can often tell the difference between truth and fabrication in everyday conversations. These methods are surprisingly practical. You can apply them while chatting with friends, talking to a partner, or listening to a colleague explain something that sounds a little too convenient. When used at the right moment and in the right way, people almost always reveal small cracks in their story. And those cracks can tell you far more than words ever will. One of the first places to look is the eyes. The mouth can perform beautifully. It can smile, reassure, and deliver well-rehearsed lines with confidence. But the eyes are far less skilled at hiding what is really going on inside. When someone lies, their body often reacts automatically without their conscious control, and the eyes are among the first to betray them. One particularly telling sign is blinking. It may sound insignificant, but it is incredibly revealing. Under normal conditions, most people blink around 15 to 20 times per minute. When a person lies, their nervous system is under stress, and this stress can trigger two opposite but equally suspicious reactions. Some people start blinking excessively, as if dust has suddenly flown into their eyes. Others do the exact opposite. Their eyes seem to freeze, barely blinking at all, almost as if they are holding their gaze in place. This frozen stare often happens because the brain is working overtime, trying to construct or maintain a story, and the body temporarily forgets its natural rhythm. Observing this doesn't require staring intensely or making the other person uncomfortable. Simply pay attention in the few seconds after they finish answering a question. If their blinking suddenly becomes erratic or stops altogether, that's a warning sign, especially if just moments before they appeared relaxed and normal. When a person's eyes abruptly change behavior right after a specific answer, it suggests that mental effort is being redirected from natural expression to damage control. The eyes may not speak, but if you watch them at the right time, they often tell a story that is far more honest than the words being spoken. Another thing that even skilled liars struggle to control is what psychologists call microexpressions. These are extremely brief facial expressions that flash across the face for a fraction of a second before the conscious mind can suppress them. They usually last less than half a second, but they reveal genuine emotions, fear, guilt, anger, anxiety, that contradict the polished surface someone is trying to present. Think about a student who gets a bad grade and is asked by their mother, "Was the test easy?" The student might confidently say, "Yes, it was easy," but for a split second, their face shows panic or disappointment before the smile settles in. Liars experience the same thing. No matter how calm, cheerful, or confident they try to appear, their true feelings often leak out in tiny, fleeting movements. A brief tightening of the lips, a quick furrow of the brow, a momentary look of fear in the eyes. To catch these microexpressions, you don't need to accuse anyone directly. In fact, it's often better not to. When someone tells a story that feels suspicious, try calmly repeating part of it back to them. For example, you might say, "So you're saying you lost your wallet while you were asleep in class?" Then watch their face closely the instant they hear your repetition. If there is a flash of hesitation, a flicker of worry, or a subtle collapse of confidence that doesn't match their words, you may have just seen their real emotion before it was buried again. It takes practice, but once you train your eyes, these brief signals become surprisingly easy to spot. A very effective technique used by psychologists and even law enforcement is asking someone to tell the same story more than once. The key is how you do it. The first time you listen, normally, you nod, show interest, and don't challenge anything. Then after a short while, you casually bring the story up again, but this time you deliberately alter a small detail. For example, if someone previously said they lost their phone at 4 in the afternoon, you might later say, "So when you lost your phone around 3 o'clock, what happened next?" Then you watch carefully. Someone who's telling the truth will usually correct you immediately and confidently. "No, it was 4, not 3. They'll say without hesitation. They're simply recalling a real event from memory. A liar, on the other hand, may hesitate, seem confused, or even agree with your incorrect detail. This happens because they are not recalling a real memory. They are trying to remember what they said before. Their brain is busy maintaining consistency in a fabricated narrative, and small changes can easily throw them off. Sometimes they will pause, scratch their head, touch their nose, lick their lips, or go still for a moment. These are all signs of mental discomfort. Telling the truth requires recollection. Lying requires constant editing, and not everyone is a good editor. If you want to increase the pressure slightly, pay attention to body language while they try to remember their story. Involuntary movements, like fidgeting, touching the face, or freezing in place, are often signs that the brain is under stress. Truthful person might think for a moment, but they don't usually look physically distressed by the act of remembering. A liar often does. One of the most mentally demanding ways to expose a lie is to ask someone to tell their story backward, starting from the end and working their way to the beginning. It may sound a bit cruel, but it is extremely effective. The reason lies in how memory works. Real experiences are stored as genuine memories, which means they can often be recalled in different orders. Fabricated stories, however, are usually constructed linearly from beginning to end, like a script. When you ask a liar to reverse that script, they often struggle. They may speak more slowly, repeat themselves, contradict earlier statements, or avoid eye contact. You might hear long pauses or sighs as if they are mentally loading the next part of the story. That's because they are not rewinding a real memory. They are trying to reconstruct a fictional narrative in reverse, which is far more difficult. A person telling the truth may still find it slightly challenging, but the difference is noticeable. They tend to sound more thoughtful rather than anxious. Their story remains coherent, even if it's less polished. A liar's version often falls apart under this kind of pressure, revealing inconsistencies that weren't obvious before. Sometimes deception isn't revealed by what people say, but by how they say it. Language itself can carry the scent of dishonesty. When innocent people are asked a direct question, they usually answer simply and clearly. Liars, however, often wrap their responses in unnecessary qualifiers and formal-sounding phrases. They might start with expressions like "to be completely honest," or "honestly speaking," or "let me explain properly." These phrases sound reassuring, but they often signal that the speaker is trying too hard to frame their words as truthful. Another linguistic red flag is over-explaining. Liars often talk too much, adding irrelevant details to distract you from the core issue. They might repeat the question back to you, buying time for their brain to catch up. They might wander off into side stories that feel impressive but don't actually add clarity. The goal is to overwhelm you with information, so you stop analyzing the story closely. People telling the truth usually want to clarify. People lying often want to blur. If you find yourself feeling mentally tired or confused after someone explains something, ask yourself whether the details actually mattered or whether they were just noise designed to hide a weak point in the story. There is also a particular kind of lie that can be harder to spot because it feels so polished. Some people don't just lie, they produce a full cinematic experience. Their stories have vivid settings, dramatic tension, and carefully placed details like a movie scene. Ironically, this level of perfection can be a warning sign. Real life is often messy, boring, and imperfect. When a story feels too well crafted, it may be exactly that crafted. If someone consistently adds unnecessary specifics, like the exact pattern on someone's shirt or the brand of a sticker on a stranger's helmet, you should be cautious. These details may not be lies in themselves, but they are often used to make a story feel more real than it actually is. Some liars even preemptively defend themselves, saying things like, "I'm serious. I'm not joking," or "I swear this is true," without being prompted. When someone keeps insisting on their honesty before you've even doubted them, it's worth paying attention. Perhaps the most honest witness in any conversation is the body. Words can lie, faces can perform, but the body is notoriously bad at deception. When someone lies, their body often leaks signals of discomfort. They may touch their face, rub their hands, adjust their posture repeatedly, or hold themselves in an unnaturally stiff position. Hands are especially revealing. Excessive gesturing, oddly placed hands, or hands used to self-soothe, like gripping the arm or clasping tightly, are common signs of stress. Eye contact is another key factor. While it's a myth that all liars avoid eye contact, many do show abnormal patterns. They might look away at critical moments, glance downward frequently, or stare too intensely, as if trying to appear honest. A sudden change in eye contact behavior compared to their normal manner is often more important than eye contact itself. Pay attention to whether their movements feel natural or forced. A body that suddenly becomes rigid, as if the person is afraid to move, often indicates internal tension. They are trying not to give themselves away, and that effort shows physically. After learning all these techniques, you might feel like you've acquired a powerful toolkit for detecting deception. And in a sense, you have. You can now spot warning signs in friends, partners, coworkers, and even strangers. But with this power comes responsibility. Not every strange behavior is a lie, and not every lie is malicious. People get nervous for many reasons. Cultural differences, personality traits, and anxiety can all mimic the signs of deception. The goal is not to become suspicious of everyone or to turn every conversation into an investigation. If you do that, you may end up looking like a paranoid detective rather than a thoughtful observer. Instead, use these tools to stay aware, grounded, and emotionally intelligent. Let them guide your intuition rather than replace it. Ultimately, these techniques are not about catching people out for the sake of it. They are about protecting yourself, understanding others better, and navigating social interactions with clearer eyes. When you know how lies reveal themselves, you are less likely to be manipulated and more likely to trust wisely. And if you ever notice that quiet alarm bell ringing in your head again now, you'll know how to listen to it and how to find out whether it's warning you for a reason